Okay, so I'll start by clearing up some confusion from my last blog. So to clarify, it was the Egyptian cleric that was saying that the Starbucks logo was Queen Esther and the Persian crown, and I was trying to say how ridiculous that was, because it is common knowledge that the logo is some Greek mythology of sorts and very far from being anything Jewish, but according to Muslim thought process, the Jews are somehow behind everything in the world, good or bad. 9/11, Starbucks. But since we're in the holiday mood, there are about 80 stores in Jerusalem that are planning on selling yeast over Passover, which has a lot of Orthodox up in arms. So the Orthodox have been sending them letters saying, please, please, don't sell yeast on the Passover. You will be cut off from Israel if you do so, which is mildly amusing to me because they don't call them on the other horrible sins that they commit the rest of the year, such as pornography and stealing and lying and adultery. But no, don't sell yeast for the Passover or you will be cut off from Israel. That's it. Don't sell yeast on the Passover, or you will no longer be Jewish. And speaking of kosher, I heard there was some hot dog that almost started a riot in a supposedly kosher restaurant, and the guy had gone and bought hot dogs that I understand were beef, but they weren't, like, koshered by the rabbi, and so he was cooking them, and some Jew saw the package, and he was very upset, and they just started, like, yelling at each other, and the cook had to grab an electric knife to fend off the people. That's really sad. It's like, love thy neighbor as thy hot dog. But speaking of our lovely Orthodox Jews, there was a report that came out this week saying that women were trying to get in on the benefits of being an Orthodox without actually being an Orthodox. And so they go to the army when they're drafted and they say, I am religious, I cannot serve in the army. And so what the army does is they hire private investigators to actually follow them around and see where they go and what they're doing. And if they catch you making out, or that skirt's a little too short, you gotta go to the army. I also read that the Orthodox have hired a bus that is segregated. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, segregation is alive and well in Israel. But it's between men and women. So the women have to sit in the women's chairs, and the men have to sit in the men's chairs, and never shall the twain meet. In fact, if there's empty men chairs, and all the women chairs are full, then the woman's gotta stand up. And if she tries to sit down, they're going to yell at her. So the Ministry of Transportation says that's illegal. It's called discrimination. We don't have that. We're a democratic country. And the Orthodox Jews say, we don't care. We're going to do it anyway. And so in 4 days of running this segregated bus line, they've gone through like 5 different bus companies because the Ministry of Interior keeps shutting down the companies that tried to help them. And on a more amusing note, British MP George Galloway was denied entry into Canada this week, and he was livid. How dare you? I'm a distinguished man. How could you not let me in? America let me in. And they're like, look, you support a group that Canada deems to be a terror group, and therefore you are a security risk. And he's like, I gave Hamas 100 cars and some money and the food. And it's like, didn't we go through this? If you give Hamas food, it will never make it to the people. If you give them cars, they're going to use them to drive around and shoot people. I mean, what does he think they're going to use this money that he gives them for? Like, buy donuts? Pita? Hummus? And he argues, well, they're democratically elected. And I argue they were democratically elected to be part of the government, and they've ousted the president, and they threatened to hang him in the square if he comes back to Gaza. Yes, democratically elected, indeed. That's definitely the group you should be supporting. If you want to support the Palestinians, you know, I'm not even for Fatah, but at least they're less violent. Like, not non-violent, but less violent. Is that sad that I'm actually encouraging someone to support the less violent group? And I thought about it. Like, what would be a telltale sign? How would I know that the Palestinians have really had a change of heart, that they really want peace, and that they don't want to kill us anymore? And I figured it out. I have the answer. The answer is they would have to do 2 things. First of all, they would have to recognize Israel, which seems pretty obvious, but actually no Palestinian party, not Fatah nor Hamas, recognize Israel. So America wants to somehow make this 2-nation solution that would still not recognize Israel. But ultimately, the number one thing they would have to do is agree to quit calling themselves Palestinians and go back to calling themselves Arabs like they did before 1967. And then we would know there's really been a change of heart. Because historically, the only reason they ever called themselves Palestinians was part of a plan for the destruction of Israel. And if you want to read more about it, go to YeshuaIsrael.com, archives, an article called Will the Real Palestinians Please Stand Up? And I was listening on the radio today, and this guy had a brilliant idea. He's like, you know what? Nobody believes us that we try to be a moral army, that we're really trying to work with these Arab Palestinians. So I suggest we go shoot some missiles into Europe, blow up a few stadiums, blow up some bombs in some malls or whatever, and then call ourselves freedom fighters. Say it's all this pressure from the world on us. It's like killing us. Isn't that what the Palestinians are doing? So Obama wants to talk to Iran right now. Honestly, I know a lot of you guys really like Obama. When it comes to his foreign policy, I would not trust him as far as I could throw him. But according to U.S. intelligence, Obama's putting a lot of pressure on Israel to do things that will, in essence, destroy it politically. I know he promised that if Iran nuked us that he would join the fight, but thank you so much, we probably won't be here anymore. So I was watching some footage of nukes to kind of see what it would look like if we got nuked. I'm not so much afraid to die. I was just curious if it would hurt. I don't think it will. I think it happens really fast.